Hey producer fam, it's your girl EJ here. Glad you guys could join us for another video where I will be dropping some jewels on how you can improve your beat creation. Now I've posted a very condensed version of these tips already on my Instagram page, but I felt the need to elaborate on these concepts because maybe some of you are new to beat making or you've been doing it for a little while and you're still having some issues. So I hope that these tips would give you guys some insights and maybe a better understanding as well of why it is so important not to use too many sounds when you're creating your beats. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel yet, please go ahead and do so right now. And also remember to click the notification bell if you'd like to receive regular beat making gems such as these that will help you improve your craft. Also connect with me on my other social media pages to stay in touch. Let's get into it. Now I know you guys probably heard this before, but I cannot underestimate the importance of this particular lesson that I've learned over the years. And I honestly have to say the most positive responses that I have received from audiences to my beats has been because of the following, and that is simplicity. Using too many sounds, especially if they're all in the same frequency range, can be counterproductive. Now let's go a little bit deeper into this. Now I found that instruments or sounds or samples that resonate in the same frequency range, such as pianos, stringed instruments like cellos, guitars, woodwind instruments, which are all sitting in the mid-range, will clash with each other if you add way too many of them on top of each other. Now there is a little exception to this rule, and that depends on how you actually use the sounds within the arrangement, but I will explain that to you guys in a bit. But let's first have a look at this image of the music frequency spectrum just to give you guys a better idea of where each instrument you might use in your beat falls in the frequency spectrum. And just press pause guys if you need to take a better look. Now let me explain the exception I mentioned earlier to this rule. When you are using a lot of sounds in the same frequency range, it is best to then use them sparingly. For instance, you can maybe have a guitar melody and a piano melody playing at the same time as your main melody, but you can have the other sounds pop in and out of your arrangement periodically. This will make it sound less chaotic and more interesting for the listener. And just always keep in mind, we as producers are not creating music only for ourselves unless we are making a totally instrumental album, but we are creating music for singers, for rappers, for vocalists. So it's best to have less going on so that you leave space for the vocalist to shine. Which brings us to point number 2. Instead of adding too many sounds to create a fuller mix, rather rely on good quality, rich sounds and clever mixing techniques. I have to admit, I have personally made this mistake myself where I would use not so good quality sounds, and in the end I felt like adding more sounds just to beef up my beat. Now I have to understand that each sound has its own place in the frequency spectrum, but in addition to that, every sound has its own harmonics that gives it a more richer and fuller sound. Now if the sounds that you are using lack the full spectrum of harmonics, they'll just end up sounding flat or dull or tinny. Now the downside of stacking sounds to make a production sound fuller is that you are probably going to have to spend more time on mixing to compensate for the lack of quality to try and bring out those harmonics. Now if you're a music producer such as myself who is selling my beats online and you want to create a significant amount of beats in a short period of time, or you have a placement with an ad agency and have restricted time to create your project, struggling with your mix is just not on. It's the most stressful thing ever, believe me. So just use high quality sounds. And if you're a beat maker on a budget, I got you. I've got some links in the description box for you guys to websites where you can download free sample packs, good quality sample packs, as well as links to other websites where you can have like a monthly or yearly subscription for a fee. Because I personally feel that if you are serious about making your beats and you want to sell them and make money and make a living off it, then you will definitely invest in good quality sounds, because there's just nothing worse in spending so much time on all your marketing and putting so much energy into it and not having your beats sell because they just sound trash. You feel me? So let's move on to the next point. The less sounds you use, the more space you have to make each individual sound shine when it comes to the mixing stage. So let's just talk about the mixing stage for a bit and how the way you produce can influence how you mix. When we start off our beats, it's always a good thing to remind ourselves that we only have a certain amount of space in the frequency spectrum. So if you end up filling the same frequency range with too many sounds, it's just going to start being muddy and irritating, all blended together with no clarity and definition. And this is what separates a good production from a bad one, which also partly determines the character and feel of your beats. Because what we as producers are ultimately trying to give to our listeners is a vibe, an emotion or a feel or a mood. And yes, in your mix, you can obviously apply things like binaural panning or reverb to put each individual sound in its own space, and tools like EQ and compression to make it sound more defined. But in my opinion, and I know a lot of experienced music producers would agree with me, is that it's never a good idea to fill up the whole frequency range with too many sounds. And remember that frequencies do build up. So in order to have a good quality mix, you need to allow the instruments to resonate to their full potential. And in addition to that, it also makes the mixing process less time consuming, streamlining your workflow so you can get to focus on other areas of your business or your life where your energy and attention is also needed. So let's get to the second key tip when it comes to keeping things simple, and that is our arrangement. The second key thing that I've learned is to also have a good but easy to follow arrangement. Create breaks and build-ups in strategic places, putting emphasis on certain sounds rather using effects than more sounds. Now this tip actually ties into what I spoke of earlier in the video of letting certain sounds pop in and out of your arrangement periodically. Now you can create space by not letting a side melody run for the whole length of the cycle. For example, if you have an 8-bar main melody in your verse, let an additional sound only repeat twice, maybe like every 4 bars, at the middle or the end of the cycle. Now what I personally like to do is to strip down my intros completely. Then say for instance after every 4 to 8 bars I create a build-up or a break, and then I drop right into the chorus. And in some of my beats I actually have instruments build up for the last 4 bars or for the last 2 bars completely drop out before the chorus drops back in. It's very simple, but it's very effective. So that's it from me, fam. I hope that this all makes sense to you guys. And if you have any questions or you would like to leave a gem of your own, please leave it in the comment section and I will definitely get back to you ASAP. Also, don't forget to follow me on my other social media pages so we can stay in touch. And if you forgot to hit that subscribe button, please do it right now. And also the notification bell so you get regular updates whenever I post on my channel. Thanks again for watching. I'll peep you guys in the next.